Hey everybody, hope you're doing well. Hope you've studied up on those blood vessels and you're prepared for that component of the test, and now you're getting prepared for this lymphatic component. Don't forget, lymphatic system is a drainage system. It helps to drain extra fluid away from our tissues that accumulate it there at capillaries. And so what we're really going to start looking at is a lot of tubes and a lot of organs involved with kind of filtering and helping to create our immunity. Now, when we look at this first image, we can get a lot of things off this first image, but the main thing I want to do is cover the two organs and lymph nodes on this image. First off, lymph nodes, we see all these lymph vessels draining fluid back, and then we see these clusters, these knots, right? There's a set of knots, here's a set of knots right here. These clusters are our lymph nodes. So first off, we can see these in the armpit are called the axillary lymph nodes. These in the crease of the leg are called the inguinal lymph nodes. These in your neck are called the cervical lymph nodes. And they're not really labeled here, but I want you to label, kind of draw them in, draw a couple knots right here, right on the chin, under the chin, and label those as mandibular or submandibular lymph nodes. Okay, so either mandibular or submandibular lymph nodes, I'd take that on the test. Okay, so you're going to have to add those, right? I may even point to my chin below my jaw and say, you go to the doctor, and the doctor feels something swollen underneath your jaw. What is it? And that's what I'm talking about, are the mandibular or the submandibular lymph nodes. Now, besides that, here we can also see the thymus. So if we look down our list, this is at the bottom of our list, the thymus, involved with helping to set up immunity, helping with some of the T cells, especially. That's where T cells get their T from. And then here's the spleen. The spleen is a red blood cell recycler. That's why it's purple. But it also helps contain white blood cells and platelets. So it's in kind of like a lymph node, but lymph nodes filter lymph and the spleen filters blood. Now, I want to cover the spleen here because I don't have any good images of it. So this spleen, the outer covering of a spleen, the outer covering of any organ, is called the capsule. And then anywhere where the main vessels plug in, the main vessels enter or leave an organ, we always call it the hilum or the hilus. Either term, hilum or hilus or hilus. I've heard it pronounced both ways. And so we can't see it, but we can kind of see where some of these vessels are going in and out. And so that main region that plugs in and out is called the hilum or the hilus. Now let's move forward. Here's an image that shows us how lymph is drained around the body. Most lymph is drained by the thoracic duct, and the thoracic duct drains below the diaphragm and the left-hand side of the body. Everything above the diaphragm on the right-hand side is drained by the right lymphatic duct. So let's take a look at that and actually see these ducts. Down here at the bottom, here's the diaphragm. So let's start with that. Let's see, everything below the diaphragm pulls up to this collection point. This collection point is called the cisterna chyli. Now, there's three branches down here that I want you to know. I want you to know that the intestinal trunk is in between the two lumbar trunks. So these two are the lumbars, and the one in between is the intestinal trunk. Okay, it's kind of a little odd looking, but here, two lumbars and one intestinal. These guys help feed into the cisterna chyli, and then everybody pay attention. It creates the thoracic duct. It goes up through the thoracic cavity, follow those arrows. It goes all the way around and keep following. And here it plugs in to the left subclavian vein. So there's the thoracic duct, and there's where it adds that lymph back into circulation so it can get back into the blood flow. Now, connecting onto that thoracic duct from above, we have the left jugular trunk. From the arm, we have the left subclavian trunk, and it's really tough to see. You might have to zoom in to catch this little one, this little green one that peels off behind that jugular vein and comes down here. Right, this little one is the left bronchomediastinal trunk. So there's the left bronchomediastinal trunk draining the chest region. So if we drain the left chest, the left arm, the left head, and now everything below the diaphragm, then that's how we created that thoracic duct overall. Now, the right lymphatic duct is only formed right here. It's super short. It's only formed after the right subclavian trunk and the right jugular trunk and the right bronchomediastinal trunk merge together. So after these three merge, they make this bigger vessel, and it's super short. There's the right lymphatic duct, again, into the right subclavian to add that fluid back into general circulation. All right, so that should have taken care of all of our lymphatic vessels in our list. The next thing that we have is a view of a lymph node. So whenever we look at a lymph node here, we notice that first off, this lymph node, we've already talked about the different ones, so let's look at the structure. First off, we see this outer covering, and this outer covering is green on the outside, it's kind of purple on the ends. This outer covering is called the capsule. And we have these extensions of the capsule that kind of partition into the cortex region, the cortical region, and these are called trabecula or trabeculae. And so these just partition this area up and help to create little individual filtration units. Now, all of this region out here, that's kind of this pinkish purplish area, this is the cortex of the lymph node. And in this cortex, I want you to add something. I want you to know something about this cortex. I want you to know these little dots, these little purple dots. These are the important cells. There's no reason to even talk about a lymph node if we don't talk about these. These little dots are our B cells. So I want you to add that to your list. B cells, and that's the purple dots that's in the cortex. These guys are going to make the antibodies, and that's the whole reason we've got these lymph nodes, is to produce immunity responses. So here's the cells, the B cells, that are going to be triggered by that and create antibodies to put into the fluid and back into the bloodstream. So cortex has B cells. This sandy colored, almost yellowish tan color, this is the medulla, or the medullary region of the lymph node. And so we can kind of see that in the center, we're doing a little bit something different, okay? Now, here we have all the vessels coming in are called afferent vessels, just like in our nervous system, afferent means incoming. So these are afferent lymph vessels. And then coming out, we have only one efferent lymph vessels. So a lymph node, we're going to collect, we're going to get many coming in and only one leaving, and we're going to filter, right? And that's really kind of their function, is to collect and filter lymph. Here is that efferent or efferent lymph vessel, and that's taking the fluid out of the node and eventually to either the thoracic or the right lymphatic duct. Now again, right here is where we would see all of the vessels, the main vessels plugging in and a nerve plugging in. So this dip is referred to as the hilum or hilum, hilus or hilus, either way is fine. Now, the only thing that we've got left to cover are the three tonsils. And again, this is not a very long presentation, so I hope you're not disappointed. I could have lengthened it out, but I chose not to. I didn't want to ramble. So here we can see these three tonsils. These do not have a capsule, so these are simply just types of lymphatic tissue, not that big of a deal. But here is the uppermost. This is your pharyngeal tonsil. Do not call it the adenoids right now. I want us to use the proper term on this test. Here is the pharyngeal tonsil. It's at the top of your pharynx, and this is where your nose hits the back of your throat. So air hits here, helps to clean air, filter air, get triggered by the air, something in the air. Here's your palatine tonsil. This is on the side of the back of your throat. These are the ones, if you're sick and you look in the mirror and you say, ah, these are the ones that you're looking at, okay? At the base of the tongue, this little lumpy structure is our lingual tonsils, okay? So there's the lingual tonsil. And there are the three tonsils, and that completes our lymphatic lab. Again, very short and sweet. In order to get enough questions on the test, I'm going to have to ask almost everything out of this lymphatic lab. Okay, so make sure that you're prepared for this next lab test. Those blood vessels are much tougher, and then this is a much easier component. Combined, they should give you a fairly simple lab test. If you have any questions, please contact me for help, and I'll talk to you soon. Have a great day.